Welcome to our YouTube viewers. Welcome to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Pardon the loud volume the other day. By the way, we've released this track. It's called Gem Cutter. Look up Golden Cat Productions. You'll find it. What's that? You want more? Oh, don't worry. We've got more. Lots more. Facts. There was an M-class flare yesterday. We'll get to it. First, we're going to look at Earth's geospace. So here's what's going on around Earth's magnetosphere. Yes, it's Earth's magnetic moment from space for the past 4 hours, and things have been pretty calm around planet Earth. We didn't see any relativistic particles. We're going to talk about sunspots, coronal holes, solar flares, coronal mass ejections, and more. So let's do it. Again, that's the last 4 hours of magnetohydrodynamic pressure surrounding the planet to about 12 Earth diameters. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Our geospace magnetosphere, our ground magnetic perturbations movie for the past 4 hours. The last one was scaled in nanopascals magnetohydrodynamic pressure. This one's scaled in nanotesla magnetic flux density. Again, things pretty calm here, geomagnetically speaking. And next, the planetary K-index, pegged at 1 here for the past 9 hours. That's a measurement of global geomagnetism for you new viewers. And moving to the real-time solar wind, we've seen a recent little uptick here in the solar wind speed. Still kind of low at 363 kilometers per second. Solar wind density just under 10 protons per cubic centimeter. We've also seen an uptick here in the plasma temperature. So that could indicate a weak coronal hole high-speed stream. We can expect some stronger coronal hole high-speed streams. The radial flux is now at 137 solar flux units, so it's a bit of a downtick there. Likelihood of flares is very high. We'll get to that too. And yeah, NOAA forecasting some geomagnetic unrest later today and early tomorrow. So here's your GOES magnetometer readings. Seeing some little higher readings showing up here, and let's take a look at the heliospheric current sheet next. So Earth remains in a South Pole current sheet, and there is now a North Pole current sheet headed this way. So we've seen most of the activity in the southern hemisphere, and you can see this little bit of North Pole current sheet coming through, headed toward stereo A, which is this little plus sign here. This is stereo B over here. That stands for behind. It's behind the Earth in terms of space weather. It sees space weather after the Earth can no longer see it. Stereo A stands for ahead. It sees space weather before the Earth sees it, hence the term ahead. Anyway, there's a line of sight view. We've got two massive new sunspots at hugely different latitudes showing up in the southern hemisphere. Let's move to coronal holes. Here is the coronal hole line of sight plot. This shows the sun's B field, which is nicely fanned out here as the solar polar field reversal process sort of commences in earnest. And here's a view of it visually. And we put up a composite today. That's 193 plus 211 angstroms. See that massive, like a giant ear there on the side of the sun. Let us know if you think the sun's listening in the comments. Check out this M-class flare event and see some massive plasma orientation, reorganization, and headed out toward various space stations in the solar system. Is it headed toward Earth? We'll get to it. First, sunspots. So here's your sunspot analysis. Sunspot 3023 and 3024 are interesting in that they are really far apart from the perspective of latitude. At the beginning of solar cycles, we typically see sunspots at higher latitudes. At the end of sunspots, we see them only closer to the equator. At the moment, we're seeing this huge disparity, where we're seeing them at massively different latitudes. I think it's associated with Terminator events, but not exactly sure on that. It's interesting, though, to say the least. The likelihood of major solar flares, in my opinion, is much higher than this monitor. I say you're wrong. I say we're going to see M or even X-class flares from Sunspot 3014 and or Sunspot 3017 as they set there on the northwestern limb. And let's take a look at the sunspot scenario. 3023 and 3024 down there in the southeast. There's 3014 and there's 3017. They are massive. You can see the Earth scale here perhaps. Some large sunspots indeed. Do you follow us on Twitch? We would have already streamed 2 videos to Twitch by the time you saw this on YouTube, twitch.tv/Smashomash. What's sweet about that is that the mobile app will actually alert you when we go live, unlike certain video hosting platforms that will remain unnamed. Did you know that we're writing a paper explaining the mechanism underlying the solar cycles? So let me give you an opportunity to actually see something if you're not at the gold level membership already. In science, we ask questions. We expect answers, but consistent with some of the unpredictable chaos of the universe, we don't always get those. Most often, we end up with more questions. Sometimes, though, we get answers to questions not asked. This is what has occurred with my understanding of stars. See, I immersed myself in the solar data for 5 years. It paid off, but not in ways I expected. Getting anybody to pay me is akin to getting a falcon to have tea and biscuits with an orca, but I digress. Anyway, smashomash.com/smashteam for gold level. We're telling you to sit back and enjoy the journey. Typically, we only share these videos with our gold level members, but I figured I would put up a little promo on YouTube. Now, talking politics. Let's talk politics. I'm apolitical. If you think I'm associated with a political party, think again. If you think I'm right-wing or left-wing, think again. I'm not defined by any of that nonsense. I have a nuanced stance on stuff. And the merch may or may not represent my sort of personal beliefs. I certainly do believe in forgive, remember, hold accountable. I certainly do believe that there is lots of evil on the planet. And I certainly do believe that there's lots of fraud on YouTube. So anyway, forgive, remember, and hold accountable. Did you know that hell has been unanimously voted as the dimension of the year for the past 3 years? Seems like a problem. Anyway, the merch is largely designed. Some of it's based on requests. Some of it's based on just public service messages. So I would say to each of you, Mensa, make Earth not suck again, and Universum Liberate. It's the motto of the Galactic Federation Special Forces. Since there's limited peace on Earth, we've decided to move out and attempt to bring peace to the galaxy. You can find links to that at smashomash.com. Right there's the Smasho merch link. There's the link to the Smash team. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. You can find links to our social media there. Things like our Patreon, our Facebook. Give Smash staff a raise by picking up some merch. Join our Discord chat. There's a permanent invite there under the Follow Us header. Smashomash.com. We built our own website because of pathetic censorship on Facebook. So, hey, thanks, Facebook. We've decided to turn your pathetic joke of a platform into a benefit for us. We just built our own website. We now pay for our own servers and so on because we want to be able to do what we want and not bow down to the pathetic censorship of big tech, who can't break the internet, but who can be broken by the internet. Anyway, there is the proton flux over the past 3 days. There is the X-ray flux over the past 3 days, and there's the M-class flare that we were talking about earlier. It was only an M1.3, but it certainly did send some ejecta out into the greater solar system. We'll tell you where it's headed in a moment. First, let's look at flaring in 94 angstroms. And again, I would reiterate, we can expect to see some massive flares from these areas. Did you know flares are more likely to occur on the limb than closer to the center of the solar disk? You're less likely to see a flare in this area as you are in this area, or perhaps this area. So anyway, we've got two new interesting sunspot groups forming down here, rising rather down here in the southeast. And we can see some flaring indeed happening there from sunspot 3017. That's this one here, 3014, almost out of view at the moment, maybe out of view. How about some close-ups of that event yesterday? We streamed it live to Twitch, if you were wondering. Yeah, we were streaming the Go 16 SUVI when that occurred. I watched it play out in nearly real time. So here's some more great imagery. This is a slow-mo, 94 plus 171 angstroms. Let that reset. It'll be well worth the wait. Spectacular imagery there from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And I think it's time to move on to a star chart. This is what's going on above my head in Lehigh Valley. Yes. Mercury, Venus, Mercury, Venus, the Moon, Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn, all showing up in the morning sky. It's a great day to be up before dawn, especially if you've got clear skies and a view of the ecliptic from your location. How about a solar system forecast? We've got a new moon coming. All our reverse werewolves are sleeping well and powering up to sleep even better. Here's a 1-week forecast for the solar system. Here's where things will be in a week. People are probably frightened on YouTube that all the planets are on one side of the solar system. They think it's going to hurl us into the galactic core or some other nonsense like that. So we've got some missing data here on the last 14 days. Let's show the LASCO C2 from yesterday. And it's going to show most of that coronal mass ejection. You can see it coming out here to the southeast. And so, it doesn't look like it's headed toward the Earth. But let's do a further analysis by looking at Stereo A and the SOHO-LASCO C3. Stereo A is located here at Lagrange 5, the SOHO-LASCO C3 located here at Lagrange 1. And we paused it here, 2118 on the SOHO-LASCO C3 and 2009 on the Stereo A coronagraph. And if you look here, now Earth would be down this line. If you look over here on the Stereo A coronagraph, you don't really see any ejecta headed toward the Earth. Maybe a tiny diffuse bit. And it may look like a bit of a halo eruption there. It may look like a halo coronal mass ejection, the kind that is directed toward the Earth, but I'm not so convinced because there's some stuff going on the far side of the sun as well. You can see that far side eruption happening just a couple hours before that M-class flare on the earthly side of the sun. And I think that's made it a little bit deceptive. So anyway, that's my stance, and I'm sticking to it. I don't think it's headed toward the Earth. I don't think it's a glancing blow or any kind of blow. I think it's a spectacular light show. So thanks for tuning in to the Daily Space Weather. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. May that solar wind be at your back as I sign off from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news.